deal was a hot deal, and it was easily oversubscribed, and there was a lot of competition for the business. And it was one of the hot deals of the year, and Moulton was the venture capitalist of the year. That's no bullshit. In one of my on my website, someplace maybe it's got you, I have a little clip by him where he says, "Thank you, Dan, for the deal. Beseech me with more deals," or something. So this, if you know, I could have explained a harder deal, but you said the biggest deal. So that was the biggest deal.
Yep.
I've had plenty harder deals that where you're crawling around like they drop you in a down a silo, and you got no ladder coming up, and you wear your fingers down to the bone trying to get out. But that particular deal, Theodore, wasn't that kind of deal. It was.
So in this situation, he would just say thank you.
No, he would say no. What he would really say is, "I appreciate you coming by. I know you have other opportunities. Deutsche Bank was chewing my leg. What's that other big German name? The other big German bank, Westland. Yeah, West LB was chewing my goddamn leg off for the deal, and they wanted to do the deal to pay them less fees because they just wanted to get in the door. There used to be a lady banker there. I can't remember her name now, that headed up M&A. And actually, I think she came over from Deutsche, but you spread the deals around, and I was pretty good at it. Although sometimes I got parochial about it, and because I remember somebody helped me 6 years ago, and sometimes they have not as many deal flow as they want, so I do a deal or two with them to make up for when they helped me 6 years before. But the new bankers don't do that. Fuck you. Salzburg, so you helped me when I needed you, and you did my deal when nobody else would. Fuck you. The young kids don't do that shit. I mean, they just, I'm on board, pull up the gangplank, piss off. Whereas the older guys who remember when it wasn't everybody just, riding around in fucking jets, and they felt more obligation to help another guy that helped you. But the new breed of guys don't do that.
Okay.
They don't do that.
Mr. Peña, thank you for...
Thank you very much. I look forward to the credit. Thank you very much. We'll do a lot of business. Okay. Now that was just the tail end of the presentation. Somebody asked me, I was playing the pitch to the bank, and they wanted to know the biggest deal that I got financed over here. And so it happened to be a public to private, where we took a public company and we took it private. It was healthcare, and we bolted on another acquisition, and it totaled altogether about $600 million bucks. It was done with a seminar guy. A seminar attendee back in the 90s is the one that brought the deal to us. And in those days, it was the Guthrie Group. So but we've been spending a lot of time on role playing because it's important. Because when we've done the calculations to see who's more successful once they leave here, and the reason why we've come out with role playing on DVDs and stuff is because so you can have a positive reinforcement, positive role play to see how it's done by some experienced people. And the more experienced people in the room have done a smoother job. But as I pointed out before lunch, I believe, that even when the deals go good, and even when the banks, the financial institutions fund the transactions, until you get the money and you actually spend the money, the deal's not done. And I told you a few times in my career, the loans have been funded. Their bank to my bank, or my banks. And for whatever reason, a lawsuit ensues, or a constructive trust is placed on the assets because of a lawsuit that I didn't control, and they've come back and frozen the money or taken the money back. So until you spend the money, it's not a done deal. And so the younger kids that are doing transactions, until that happens to you once or twice, normally it only has to happen to you once for you to remember, believe me, only once, and then you know not to let it happen anymore. Any questions? We're going to finish up tomorrow. We're going to finish up financing. We just went through a list of 50 things that you've been taught about finance, that most of which aren't true, that I call financial myths. Tomorrow morning we're going to talk about financial follies and the other stuff that you learned that isn't true about financing transactions and getting people on your bus to go where you want them to go and when you want them to go, which is leadership. And then we'll go into the close. We'll have some more role playing. We'll go into the close and the summary. And then tomorrow night we have our graduation night where we'll all get dressed up in kilts, and champagne and caviar and stuff and have a good time. And we go through our graduation ceremony where you'll get your certificate that you can use like a Spartan shield out there in the real world. But I'll give you my speech tomorrow night. I'm not going to give it to you now. I'll probably do it on YouTube. Any questions?
Got to then.
Okay, so go ahead.
You got your funding from Bank A.
Yep.
And you want to transfer, as you say, the amount of money to another bank.
Mm-hmm.
But they gave it to you to do the deal.
Okay.
And you're just transferring it to another bank. Will they allow you, because they have to do the transaction, someone has to push the button?
Okay. Good question. You as a company, even a small company, should have more than one bank. Lending bank A, your bank B, but you have bank B, C, and D. All of your banks are capable of finishing your side of the transaction. So you list all three banks. Or four, whatever the amount, or if you only have two. You should never only have one bank. Okay? And you would never just put one bank in the paperwork. So you list more than one bank, and so you get a $10 million credit, a loan, 10 million euros, or whatever it is, and you say you're going to put a third, and a third in bank B, C, and D. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're not doing anything illegal. But some companies fund operations out of one bank account. Some banks fund put revenue only in one bank account. And so they have different bank accounts for different purposes. Some have 5 or 6 operating subsidiaries. 2 operating subsidiaries will be out of bank B, 2 out of bank C, and 1 out of bank D. I mean, you'll always have one lead bank. And for many, many years in this part of the world, the Bank of Scotland was my lead bank. In the United States, my lead bank has varied from Citibank to Bank of America. Now my lead banks are Charter and United Bank of Switzerland, and I believe the Bank of Monaco are my lead banks. Used to be ING Bank and ING in India. You know, when I first went to India, I didn't even know ING was down there because ING is a Dutch bank. And they have a very strong investment banking side, and they also have a very strong internet presence in Netscom, as I call them. They got some, yeah, they got some. They got some smart guys. Yeah.
What I mean, if you get 10 million from the Bank of Scotland and you transfer that the day after to UBS, will they allow you?
Oh no, yeah, but you don't just take all the money. But you only transfer 5 million.
Okay.
Yeah, they won't have any restrictions. Unless within the covenants of the loan they say, 100% of the money that we loaned you, Michael, you got to keep in this bank. Well, you don't agree to that covenant. You can't. How can you expect me? I've got operations. I want to do media in South Africa or wherever, and which is a legitimate reasons. And, nobody knows the Bank of Scotland in South Africa. And so you pave the way as you go along. And your dream team, your board of directors, and your anchor chairman will be smart enough. Like one of the smartest financing guys we ever had was a guy named Bruce Patterson. He was a former controller, CFO of Royal Dutch Shell. He was a Scottish guy. But I mean, he knew all the angles, and he had come up the treasury side where, you know, he's putting money back and forth into banks. So a lot of the stuff that I know from him. But what you want is to have as least amount of handcuffs on, although someone on YouTube are probably into handcuffs, but that's a whole other series we'll do another time. And you want to have latitude to be able to move your money around in a legitimate way, but you want latitude to be able to put it where you want to put it. Because when you deposit money, like I used to be one of the biggest depositors in a bank in Houston, Texas, and I had $85 million in the bank, and they got used to the money being in the bank. And when I went to move the money, the guy that was the bank president showed up at my office. And I remember Leanne said, "Mr. So-and-so is here, went to see you." I go, "What for?" And I said, I didn't even know who it was. He said, "So-and-so, CEO of such and such." And I go, "Oh shit, I wonder what happened." So I thought maybe my wife bounced checks, or what could she do? I mean, fuck, what could I... He said, "Dan," he says, "what did we do wrong? Why are you taking $85 million out of the bank?" It didn't even dawn on me that a big, big, big bank would even see $85 million being taken out. But, so you want as much latitude as humanly possible. And you can set that up beforehand. In fact, one of the things you can say to the credit officer, you realize, I'm working on media deals all over. You know, we got exposure, financial exposure in South Africa, South America, here, there, and the other place. So I need the ability to go to different banks. Because where I go, I want my money to come from a bank that they can relate to, that they're comfortable with. And they'll understand. They'll understand. Even the Swiss banks can understand that.
Second question, if
Okay.
you want to have your funding and they will fund half of it or part of it,
Mm-hmm.
you go to a second or third bank to finance the rest, or you go to another bank to fund the whole deal?
It depends. If you have an existing relationship with the bank, you go to another bank. You want to keep that relationship. So you fund whatever they can fund, whatever their comfort zone is, and then you go to another one or two banks to fund the rest. If it's a brand new bank and they change their mind and they say, well, we've thought about it, we saw the porn movies you did back in the 80s, we only want to fund a third of it, then you don't have a relationship with them, then I'd say, okay, well fine, you just told me this, I'll get back to you in the next few days, and you go and you talk to 2 or 3 other banks. Because it's easier, on the one hand, it's easier to do it with one bank, but on the other hand, if you have to do it with more than one bank, you're building a track record in more than one financial institution. Okay?
Banks will do that.
Yep. Yes, they will. Okay, any other questions? Nothing from the Salzburg think tank?
No.
No, nothing today? Okay. Have a nice night, kids. See you in the morning.